Welcome to our third Reach Minds Thoughts for Your Life Journey podcast. Today, we are going to explore meditation, what it is, what can it do for us, as well as how do we start to meditate and have it as a consistent practice in our lives. I am joined today in the podcast conversation by my dear friend and colleague, Lisa Stewart, who I have known for over 20 years and now lives in Long Beach, California, in the States. One of the things I've observed about Lisa in the early days when we worked together in Shell was that she always found space to practice meditation, irrespective of wherever we were in the world and in different time zones. And what I noticed also, that she was well ahead of a lot of other people who now do mindfulness. So for me, it was a revelation of seeing her meditate. Lisa works as a consultant, executive coach, and meditation enthusiast. She holds an MBA degree from the University of Chicago MBA program and had the first career in public finance investment banking. Upon being made redundant for the third time, now I didn't know this, she decided to leave the finance industry and look for employment in a more humane, positive work environment. From that point on, she got very interested in how people develop themselves into healthier, happier humans. So I gather she actually had absolutely no formal training in anything related to meditation before she began meditating. We'll find out what set her off on this journey of meditating in just a moment. Lisa, would you like to add anything to your intro that I might have missed?
Oh, I think that was just brilliant. Thank you. I always hate talking about myself, but I think that captures it. And no, just to emphasize, I really didn't have any background in meditation before I started. And I think that's what people should know. It doesn't take any particular training or any particular background. You just kind of get started. So no, that's great. Thanks.
Well, building on that, where I'm curious is what got you started in and being drawn to meditating?
Well, I think I was always curious about, whether there was something beyond just the five physical senses, beyond the, daily get up, brush your teeth, go to work, come home. Well, yeah, I was always interested in a little bit in things having to do with spirituality or learning about whether or not there are other dimensions and other dimensions to life other than just the day to day. So I was always curious about that. And then I think I was around undergrad, maybe university age, maybe in my early 20s. I started meeting people who had more knowledge in that domain than I did. And I think there was one person in particular that taught me I think he asked me, have you ever meditated before? And I said, no. And he suggested a very simple kind of technique or phrase to use to sort of calm myself and try to approach a meditative state. And I think it was from then that I probably never looked back. I thought, oh, this is pretty good stuff. So I just kept on.
Great. And when you now sort of look at your practice, has that changed over the years? Is there a particular philosophy, a length of time, or is something that you do differently that you probably didn't do at the beginning?
Well, I think back to front, that's probably the easiest question to answer. I would say, well, let me, I think, clarify one thing first. I think, first of all, there's all different forms of meditation. I don't know if there's even one simple definition, but I would say they all revolve in some way around sort of quieting the mind. And I'm getting a little ahead, but I would say if there's one myth that I want to explode for people who haven't meditated, don't think it's about trying to stop or blank out your thoughts, because that's not possible, right? But it is about, I think the common thread in all different forms of meditation is somehow slowing down the mind chatter and slowing down the thinking process to make bigger and bigger gaps between these thoughts that sort of take us over. In my particular way of approaching meditation, I was approaching it from a spiritual standpoint and wanting to know more about my connection to the divine. But that's just one way of doing it. What I was fascinated about, I mean, I felt very old, Nita, when you said that she was way ahead. People who are in the mindfulness movement now, I thought, oh my God, dinosaurs, what I feel like. But where I'm going with that is, for example, Aetna. Now, I don't know if Aetna is international. It's a big insurance company in the States. And if you look on their website, they're talking about meditation. Right? They're talking about it as a practice, right, to improve people's stress, and I'm not a doctor, but I can certainly see just as a consumer, the connection. Quiet yourself, quiet your inner state to have a positive impact on your health. So that's their angle on it, is for health reasons. One thing that can sort of distinguish the types of meditation is almost like considering the motivation for it, right? Is it quieting the mind? Is it improving your health? Is it access to cosmic consciousness or access to a greater field of awareness? They're all different ways. For me, it was a spiritual pursuit. For other people, there might be something else that lights the spark.
Yeah. And just as kind of developing the spiritual side of things is, over the years, I've been very aware of the sort of spirituality that sort of has come from India in particular.
Exactly.
And how it prolific, certainly in places of yoga and other kinds of practices. Exactly. So where has I hear that it's to do with spirituality, but is there a particular philosophy that you have adopted? Because, knowing you, I don't think I have a sense that he didn't come from the Eastern side of things. But where did yours come from?
Well, actually not. I would correct that a little bit. And that is because of the teachers that I followed, right?
Okay.
I did see the value. Yeah, I did see the value. Well, going back to the question you asked a moment ago, how has my practice, if you will, or my approach to meditation changed? It's deepened because I thought, okay, I'm going to try meditating. And I think, I kind of approached it in my little bit of understanding, my maybe sort of haphazard way, and got some benefit. I can kind of quiet my thoughts. This makes me more relaxed, blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't so long, Nita, and the person that I'm talking about. It wasn't so long before I met a teacher. And if people really, if they pursue meditation, I would say more towards the spiritual side of things, I think they quickly find that, well, in the Christian philosophy, first of all, where two or more are gathered, okay, there am I in the midst of you. But people tend to find, if they're pursuing it from a spiritual standpoint, that a teacher or a person who has more enlightenment, right, than you do, that's a person that can really help you along the path. And certainly, as you pointed out, from India, we were blessed with the vast sort of knowledge of meditation. Because what I didn't realize until recently, I'm still a learner, is that the Buddhist traditions around meditation really they originated in India. So we're really talking about that sort of being the seat of the early knowledge of India. And then you have China with Lao Tzu, and, you have this whole worldwide spiritual movement that was born from the old masters in meditation from India. And so my teacher that I found, she followed the philosophy of a Christian mystic named Joel Goldsmith. And Joel, originally, Joel was Jewish, grew up in a Jewish household, but he was a seeker that early on was very open to all types of, and I wouldn't even say religions, but I would say that universal view that there's really a unifying philosophy around all major faiths, religion, practices, right? And that's oneness. So Joel was a seeker. And not only did he was a Christian Science practitioner for a long time, he went to India to learn more about.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes, he did. He went to India, studied, I don't know for how long, but certainly had deep, deep respect for the traditions of Hinduism and the philosophies that came out of India that were heavily meditation based. And I think at that time, I think this is true. He said he was the first person who adopted the Eastern traditions with a heavy emphasis on meditation and brought it into the Christian philosophy of Christ. So he was very much around melding and having great respect for the whole panoply of religious and spiritual practices that all sort of boiled down to the same thing, which is oneness in his view. And most recently, the person who I'm following now is Jeff Carrera, who's a teacher in the United States that's very much in the Hindu. He studied in India for years and years and years to deepen his meditation practice. And so I've come to be part of his meditation group and what he calls emergence education. That's who I'm studying with right now.
How do you do it on a daily basis? And how do you maintain?
The main thing is just finding even a short period of time to be quiet, to have a little space to let the mind chatter kind of calm down. One of the people that I'm sure you know of, and probably many in your audience know of, is Eckhart Tolle. And Eckhart has a lot of IP online, and he does, for example, if you get one of his guided meditations, what he'll say is, take 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
And 10 would be better, but take 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, no, you don't have to light a candle or sit on a cushion. Not necessarily. If that's your practice and you like that sort of traditional meditation, it's based on posture, or meditation that is just really hand in hand, perhaps with yoga, that's fine. But the goal is to, I would say, particularly as you're starting out, is to not think you have to do something for a long period of time. Basically, find a position, probably in a chair that's better to begin with, because if people lie down, they'll probably fall asleep.
You're right. Yeah.
Right. If you get relaxed, it's like, oh, this is great. And the next thing you know, but no, we don't. You want to get the benefit of it. So I would say easiest in my experience is to start in a sitting posture, feet on the floor, and just be relaxed. And I love the way Eckhart says it, to start people in that relaxed state. And that is to have the thought, first of all, just breathe deeply, just in through the nose, out through the mouth 3 times or however many times, and just start to feel your heart rate start to decrease. Feel yourself starting into a state of relaxation. But what I love about what Eckhart will say when people are starting off is to center around the thought that just in this very moment, what is there anything missing? Do you have any needs that aren't being satisfied just in this moment? And the point that he's getting at is what hangs us up as humans is we're always in a future state, right? You sit down and say, right? Oh, did I leave the stove on? Well, the stove is, stove's probably not on in this very second. Oh my God, I just got this bill in the post. How am I going to pay it? We're projecting a future need into the present moment. But when you focus just on the seconds that you're sitting here, fully human, just breathing, just alive, you kind of discover that, well, in this very moment, I don't need anything. I'm good. Right. And let's not even mention the phones, right? The phones and the computer. The question is, I think in almost all realms of life these days, what is your quality of engagement with this moment? Are you fully present, right? Just in this, stay here. Just stay here, breathe, sit, relax. Yeah. And you find that you're gradually, maybe not, not a pro right away, things intrude. But it's almost like a technique that I have found helpful is if you envision yourself sitting by the windowsill, and you might have, I know in your case, a cat that's very good at this. They sit by the window, they're just looking out. Well, if you imagine you're sitting by your windowsill and you're on a street and you see a car go by, right? You don't necessarily chase that car down the street with your mind or with your eyes. You just kind of notice it and you let it go. And another car will come down the street, but you don't have to follow it very far. You just notice, oh, there's a car. There it goes. And another. And what you find is that it's a nice metaphor for your thoughts. Same way. You have a thought. You're not going to blank out your mind, stop yourself from thinking entirely. That's silly. But you'll have a thought and then you just let it go. It's like, okay, yep. And there's another thought and you pause and then you just let it go. So the goal isn't to, be able to sit for an hour. The goal is to be able to lengthen those little periods of time between those thoughts that will inevitably come. So I would say one of the benefits that's accrued to me over the years is being a little better able to self-manage, right? Being able to control my reactions more. And I would say learning to meditate is giving me a little bit more of a tool chest to be able to say, oh, okay, I can at least calm myself down. Yeah, I'm able to do that.
Absolutely. Lisa, this has been a fascinating conversation on getting to the different layers of meditating. If you were to give people some wisdom from yourself around meditating, what would be a couple of the things you might say to them?
Yeah, I would say start with a self-belief that you can. Because I so often hear people say, I can't do it because I can't stop my thoughts. So, the first thing I would say is just let go of that as even a possibility. You're not going to stop your thoughts, but you absolutely do have the capacity to slow them down. And it may not happen overnight. It takes little bits of practice. But I would say the second thing is don't think you have to, start off by saying, well, I've got to find a half hour to go and do this. No. Just find a few minutes in a quiet place. I would say my final tip is please don't judge yourself in your meditative practice or think, oh, I'm not doing it right. This, phooey. That's not true. Everybody starts off as a learner at some time. So I would say final closing thought is just do it. Just take a stab at it.
Yeah. And I guess just to sort of wrap that up from what you were saying is almost have a beginner's mind. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
If you enjoy listening, tell a friend.